All right, guys, so here we are, 15 pounds healthier in 15 weeks. All right, so you guys ready for this? All right, so as you all know, this is me, right? So thank you for allowing me to be your chiropractor for all these years, for many of you. I truly appreciate you being here. I will not waste your time. And hopefully we'll get out of here before the thunderstorms start raining on us, right? So here we go. 15 pounds healthier in 15 weeks. I want to talk to you a little bit about one of my patients, Barb. I want you to kind of envision the sweetest grandma you could ever imagine, right? And Barb tried everything. Atkins diet, all fat diet, all protein diet. I mean, you want to name every single diet, she tried it. And she would lose some weight, and then what would happen? As soon as she would get off the diet, she would, boom, gain it back. So she said, all right, I got to do a lap band surgery. So she got a lap band surgery, and did it work? For a little bit. And then what happens with the lap bands when they put they make the stomach smaller by putting a band over it, right? So, so that you eat less. But what happens? The body's smart and it adapts. And what happens? All right, stomach will eventually distend, starts eating again, right? So we lost some weight, gained it back, even after the lap band surgery, all right? So one of the things we're going to talk about is when we are losing weight, you got to know what your objective is, right? Are you losing weight because you want to just lose weight? Do you want to avoid disease? Do you want to increase your speed performance? I mean, you just want to look better naked? I mean, you just got to be clear on what your objective is, right? So fast forward, Barb's, again, all right, what's the diet of the month, you know what I mean? Fast forward to the point where Barb is a mother of twins and one of her twins has twins. Right? So Barb still wants to lose weight, but now Barb wants to lose weight so she can get on the floor and play with the kids. So what changed? Her motivation, her why, right? So it wasn't about looking better naked anymore because Barb was married for 57 years or something like that. It was all about, I want to be able to play with my grandkids. So one of the things I just want you to be very clear about is, that's why we started, is why do you want to lose weight? What are your goals? Why, what's your objective and why, right? Guys, many of you have seen this double-sided triangle, right? Right? On one level of the triangle is optimal wellness, right? Our high-level functioning, right? And on one other end of the triangle is dead, right? None of us want to live with dead, right? And in the middle here, we have a neutral point where you're exhibiting no symptoms, you know what I mean? And is that always healthy? No, I mean, just because you don't have any symptoms doesn't mean that everything is running properly, right? And what happens is if you ignore your health, your body can show up with signs. A sign is something that you can see or measure, right? So when we talk about like heart disease, a sign of heart disease is increased blood pressure, increased cholesterol, right? Weight gain even. If you ignore the signs of heart disease, it then turns into symptoms. Symptom of heart disease would be like angina, chest pain, you know what I mean? And then if you ignore those symptoms, what happens is you end up with a disability, which is heart attack, heart disease, right? So the thing that I really, really, really want you all to understand today, that is, if you are carrying more fat, more adipose tissue than you would like, I want you to understand that fat is a symptom. And the cause of that symptom are chronic hormonal imbalances that are caused by lifestyle choices. Does that make sense? Right? So what the things that you got to understand is we've always known that, hey, why is it that people that have heart disease also have diabetes? Why is it that people that have cancer often have diabetes? In other words, these things seem like they could be linked, right? But what we're finding out now through this recent research study came out of Europe is that, guess what? These things aren't just linked. They're all part of the same process. So what this study that just came out of Europe found is that your fat cells, okay, will produce a chemical messenger, right? And it's actually called WISP1, right? And basically these fat cells release this chemical messenger, and that functions, it gets into your bloodstream, goes to your liver, goes to your muscle, goes to your tissues, and does two things. It creates systemic inflammation, and it creates insulin resistance, both of which cause chronic disease, right? So here we're thinking, hey, I thought these things are related. They are. They're absolutely related. There's no way that they're not. Make sense? So if you're looking for a motivation, it's one of those things where we got to get serious about our extra tissue, right? It's like, okay, that's not just making me look not as good in a bathing suit, but that's also setting the biochemistry that's setting the stage for chronic disease, right? So sometimes you got to get mad at something before you change it. You know what I mean? So I hope that's a little bit of ammunition where it's like, I'm not going to let those fat cells kill me. You know, I like my dessert, but it's not worth my life. It's not worth having diabetes, because once you get diabetes, heart disease, I mean, any of those things, it's a lot harder to live with the disease than it is to be healthy. I guarantee it. You know what I mean? I always joke some of our patients where I go, you know, you're a phenomenal patient when you're in crisis. But if you were a little bit better patient when you weren't in crisis, you wouldn't be in crisis at all, right? So the same is true with our biochemistry. Hey, when I say systemic inflammation, you guys kind of conceptually get that, right? Inflammation is what fuels aches and pains. It's what fuels disease, right? But if I say insulin resistance, raise your hand if you know what that is, because I'm pretty sure that not everyone knows what that is. Raise your hand if I say insulin resistance and you're like, what is that, right? So, all right, so this is how this works. Insulin resistance is basically a common denominator for many, many chronic diseases. So you have this hormone called insulin, right? Anyone want to tell me what insulin does? Well, it regulates sugar, but from a big top-level standpoint, Tracy, insulin is what gets energy into your cell, okay? So what happens is when you eat a food, your body has, I'm going to eat a food. You pick the food. We're not going to get into what food yet, right? You eat the food, goes into the digestive system, and then what happens is your blood sugar will go up. So this is what happens when your blood sugar goes up. And then your body secretes this thing called insulin from your pancreas, and your blood sugar goes down because that energy is getting into your cells. Okay? So I want you to think of insulin as a key, and in order for it to function in your cells, it needs a lock. Make sense? Keys open what? Locks, right? So what happens is if we're eating crappy diets, and we're having poor sleep habits, and we're always under stress, and all of these things that we're going to talk about today, what happens is your body becomes tolerant to insulin. And what happens is it will develop more locks in all of the cells. So here's the thing. You're supposed to have one key and one lock, right? But if you have all these extra locks and only one key, what does your body do? Produces more keys, right? So instead of releasing the appropriate amount of insulin, what happens is it dumps a tremendous amount of insulin, which causes blood sugar spikes and drops, which causes hunger and things of that nature. But at some point, your body produces too much insulin, and then your body goes, you know what? I'm done. You get your insulin from the doctor. I'm out. And we call that diabetes, right? But remember, insulin does other things in all cells throughout the entire body. So if your body becomes insulin resistant, your body is stuck into a fat storage mode. So this is the person that's doing everything right. They're counting their calories. They're cutting all the fat off. They're doing everything right because their biochemistry is in a fat storage mode. It's like, I'm doing everything right, and I'm not getting the results I want. So I'm not doing that anymore. Sound like anyone we know? Right? We've all been there, right? So that right there is really how all of that happens, all right? So I just wanted some of you to have basically a little bit of data point as far as how does that actually happen, all right? So let's look at it this way, right? When you read the paper, they talk about, hey, great idea, guys. Now we can develop drugs that block this so you can continue your crappy lifestyle and not have to change anything. It's fantastic, right? But here's the thing, right? We all know that, let's use heart disease because it's really easy to pick on. We know that blood pressure is a factor for heart disease, which kills you, right? We know cholesterol is a factor for heart disease, right? So we got blood pressure, we got cholesterol, right? And many of us take blood pressure medication or cholesterol medication. Has there ever been a study done that shows that taking cholesterol medication or blood pressure medication is going to reduce your chance of dying from cardiac incidences, from dying from a heart attack? No. Isn't that the important part, right? So what I want to do tonight is I want to give you action steps and information so that when you go home, you can make better decisions. You guys seen the Staple Easy button? Sorry. No pixie dust tonight. If I had an easy button, it would actually say consistent action over time, right? It would be a big button, and it wouldn't be so easy to push, right? So I get it. Nothing that I'm going to tell you is easy, but it is simple. You know what I mean? And I'm going to here to give you some data, but I want tonight to be kind of a diving point into. You're not going to get it all tonight. Some of you on Monday should schedule extra time with me, like Jack, you already have, right? So we're gonna go deeper into some of these things. Some of you are gonna walk out of here and go, man, I'm killing it in this, but I need help with that, okay? Or man, I didn't even know that was a thing, and now I know it's a thing, right? So that's what we're gonna do. So you want to know why I chose 15 weeks? All right, you want a little arithmetic of health, all right? So who's good at math? Where are my numbers, people? All right. So we got 15. Oh, of course, none of my markers work. That's awesome. So we won't put that one back. How many days are in a week? Right? So 7 times 15 is what? 105. Right? How many days does it take to form a new habit? 21 days. It takes 21 days to form a new habit. So 105 divided by 21 is 5. So I'm going to teach you 5 things that I want you to do, right, over 21 days. And if you do 5 things consistently over time, 15 weeks from now, you too may be 15 pounds healthier, right? And we're talking not just losing fat, but gaining muscle too, right? But the only way you're going to do that is by consistent action over time. Make sense? Okay? All right, so let's start with your favorite things. Lifting heavy things, okay? So, yeah. And for this one, I am going to need a working marker. So just give me a quick second here. Okay, that's my one. Oh, boy. All right, so when we talk about resistance training or weight training, I want to talk about human growth hormone, right? Raise your hand if you've heard of human growth hormone. All right, what does human growth hormone do? Does awesome stuff. Human growth hormone is important for burning fat. Who wants some of that? Human growth hormone is important for building muscle, right? And it's also really, really important for your energy level. Good on all fronts, right? You want to hear something interesting about your growth hormone? Your body only releases growth hormone after strenuous exercise, and the key word there is strenuous, and after deep sleep. All right? So if you're not getting deep sleep or strenuous exercise, are you producing growth hormone? Not like you should. Are you going to get the results that you want? Absolutely not, right? And here's the thing. You are losing, after the age of 30, we are losing muscle mass, right? So what's happening is if you have a person that's sedentary, by the time you're 90 years old, you're going to lose about 80% of your muscle mass, right? But if you're physically active, that's actually going to be slowed quite significantly. You're going to lose only 2% of your muscle mass a decade versus over 7, right? So the only way that you can keep your muscles give you the ability to, 1, burn calories, but number 2, the muscles also give you the ability to produce growth hormone, which is important for fat burning and recovery and energy level, right? So it's absolutely critical that we're resistance training, right? So raise your hand if you're happy with your resistance training program. Good, right? So most people don't like to do resistance training, right? Why? Because it's hard, right? So you go to the gym. All right, Jack, you go to the gym. What's the first thing you do when you're in the gym? Stretch? Okay. What's the second thing you guys do when you go to the gym? Who does their cardiovascular workout first? because most people do, right? So you hit the treadmill and you hit the treadmill first. All right. So here's the thing. It's good when you go into the gym to have a subtle warm-up. All you need is 3 minutes, okay? Biochemically, once your forehead starts to glaze, your body temperature is at an appropriate temperature for exercise to happen, right? So you only need a 3 to 5 minute warm-up. But then after your 3 to 5 minute warm-up, you should absolutely do your resistance training first. You want to know why, right? So you should do your resistance training first because of this. We're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about resistance training, which is working the what? Muscles. You got it. And we're going to talk about cardiovascular training in a second, which is working what? The heart, right? So if your heart doesn't get the energy that it needs to work, what happens to your heart? You die, right? So cardiovascular tissue can use both fat and carbohydrate for fuel, right? Muscle, its primary fuel source, its preferred fuel source is carbohydrate. You have carbohydrate that's stored in the muscle, and then there's carbohydrate stored in the liver, right? So what happens is you want to do your weights first for two reasons. And that first reason is if you were to do cardiovascular first, right, it's easier for your body to burn carb, right? So if you do your cardiovascular first, what is it going to use? And what will you not have when you go to your resistance training program if you do it second? Is your muscle going to respond and recover the way that it should if it's using the fuel that it doesn't like? No. Right? So something very simple. If you do your weights first, you're going to give your body, the muscle, the energy that it prefers, and it's going to function better and it's going to recover better. Right? Now, who likes their carbohydrates? Come on, y'all like your carbohydrates, right? Right? You just got back from Italy, right? So what happens is if you allow your body to use its carbohydrate, it's going to tap out the carbohydrate stored in the muscle, and it's also going to break down the stored carbohydrate called glycogen in the liver, right? So you're going to tap out your resources here and your resources here in the liver. So when you have that awesome carbohydrate load the next day, what is your body going to have to replace? The glycogen and the carbohydrate in the muscle in the liver, right? So what you're doing is if you do your weights first, you're clearing out those things so when your body is refueling itself, it's got to replace its fuel stores before it makes abdominal fat, right? When you have a carbohydrate load, do you want it making belly fat or do you want it refueling your muscles? Refueling your muscles. Awesome. Real simple, right? The other thing is when you guys do your cardio, how long you do your cardio for? 20? 0? Right? 15? Okay, cool. Right? So what happens is when you're doing it takes time, right? So when you are working, you have these things called catecholamines. Catecholamines basically stimulate your fat molecules to break up into what we call free fatty acids, right? Which then stimulates fat burning, right? Because if you have more fat cells, free fatty acids available, your body's going to want to burn more fat. So if you do your resistance training first, how long is that going to take? 20 minutes, half hour or so, right? So that way, when you do your weights first, you get that 20 minutes of exercise because you're going to exercise the way I'm going to teach you in a second. Your heart rate's going to be elevated. Your body has released these catecholamines, and right around a half an hour, the concentration of catecholamine within the bloodstream gets to a point where your body goes, whoa, I'm going into fat burning mode. So that way, when you hop on the treadmill, minute 1, you're in fat burning mode, right? Versus if you did your cardiovascular first, you got on the treadmill, you did the thing for 20 minutes, And as you step off the treadmill feeling so good about yourself, your body just went into fat burning mode. Does that make sense? Right? So just by doing your resistance training first, you're going to get better results. It's just how the body works. You want to use circuits, right? What is a circuit? Let's define it. A circuit is when you're using different muscle groups, right? So there's two ways to work out, guys. There's the traditional way, the way we did it back in the day, where it'd be like, you're going to sit in your bench press machine. You're going to do your bench presses. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I got 10 repetitions. Ooh. I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait for my muscles to refuel, 30 seconds to a minute, and then I'm going to do another set. Does that look familiar to anyone? That's the old school way. So we don't want to do that. What we do want to do is a circuit where we go, oh, I'm doing my bench press. And then now I'm done my bench press. I'm going to go to a different muscle group like my back, and I'm going to work a back muscle. Okay? And I'm done my back exercise. I'm going to go back to that chest. I'm done my chest. Okay, I'm going to go to the back. So you're using opposing muscle groups. That's what's called a circuit. Okay? There's also something called a superset. Okay? So Remick, give me 2 exercises for your biceps. Yeah. Give a better example. Give me 2 exercises for your shoulders. Shoulder press? Lateral raise, right? So a superset would be when I would say I'm working on one part of the body, right? And I want to increase my intensity. So I'm doing my repetitions of a shoulder press. Oh man, I can't do this shoulder press no more. You're going to drop the weights, grab some lighter ones, and then go right into, say, an upright row or lateral raise. A different exercise for the same muscle group. Make sense? Another example would be, hey, I want to increase the amount of push-ups I'm going to do. So I'm going to do push-ups from my toes, as many as I can, and I can't do any more. Then I'm going to drop to my knees and do maybe 1 or 2 more. That 1 or 2 more is that little extra push that you need to get that muscle to change. Guys, is your body smart or stupid? Smart, right? So I want you to imagine being a body for a second. And it's like, this guy's been going to the gym, like daily. Shit. If he keeps on going to the gym daily, I'm going to have to grow my bicep. I'm going to have to get it bigger. Then I got to refuel it. I got to maintain it. It's like building an addition on your house, right? It's like, oh man, if I get an addition, I got to paint the thing. I got to maintain the thing. I got to heat the thing. I got to cool the thing. You know what I mean? The body's smart. It's not stupid. It's only going to make a physiological change if it's serious about it. So that's why all resistance training programs take a minimum of 6 weeks in order for it to actually truly impact the muscle. Make sense? So you got that's why I give you your exercises 3 to 4 weeks into your care, because I know it's going to take 6 weeks before it actually starts to develop, and that's when you're going to start holding your adjustments, and that's corrective care, right? So it's all in there, right? So when you're using circuits, well, let me get there in a second. You also can use unilateral exercises, right? So for instance, instead of doing a bench press, you can do a unilateral bench press, 1 and then the other, 1 and then the other. What you're doing with a circuit or a superset or a unilateral exercise is you're increasing the intensity on your body. The higher the intensity on your body, the more likely your body's going to make a change, right? So a unilateral exercise makes it hard on your body because when I'm pushing the dumbbell with this one, I've got to stabilize it with my core muscles on the opposite side, right? And when I do it on the opposite side, now I'm contracting this side. And neurologically, when my brain communicates with my muscle, it does so through the special thing called a cortical spinal tract, which crisscrosses. So when my right arm's moving, my left arm knows it, right? So we now know the nerve system is a site of fatigue, not just in the muscle, right? So here's the thing. Okay, doc, I get sets, supersets, and circuits. I get that that's a good thing. Well, what do I do? What do I do? Right? So if you want to work out 2 days a week, I recommend that you do a 2-day split. You go from an upper body exercise to a lower body exercise. Upper body, lower body. That's your workout for one day. The next day, or 2 days later, or another time that week, you're going to do another upper body, lower body circuit, but you're just going to do different exercises. Right? Oh, doc, only know a few couple exercises. Well, fine, do the same exercises, but the more you can vary your exercise selection, the better you're going to do. But doc, I want to work out 3 days a week. Okay. Monday, you're going to do your chest and your back. All right. Wednesday, you're going to do your biceps and your triceps. And Friday, you're going to do your shoulders and your legs. Right? But I want to do 4 days a week. Well, Monday, you're going to do chest and tris. Then you're going to do backs and bis. Then one day you're going to do shoulders, and then you're going to do legs. And please throw some rest days, at least in the middle, between shoulders and legs, right there. For those of you who want to work out 5 days a week, chest, back, arms, shoulders, legs. Make sense? When people come into the office for a consult, one of the things I want to do is I want to give them the framework of how to work out, but I don't necessarily want to give them the exercises that they do when they go into the gym, right? I want you working out the right way, but I also want you to enjoy it, right? So you might enjoy one exercise over another. Does that make sense? Sometimes when we come in for a consult and you're just like, I don't know any exercises. If that's a thing, you've got to let me know about it, because I'm assuming that you know how to get a certain number of exercises. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Yes. I don't understand on days 3, 4, and 5 why you don't mix it up on any given day. So why wouldn't they do like chest and legs on day 1 instead of chest and back?
Yes, that's an awesome question. So why do I group it the way that I group it? 2 reasons, right? So on day 3, I want you using your prime movers, right? So when you use your chest, you're also going to engage your tricep. And when you work your back, you're also going to engage your bicep, right? So I would put chest with back or triceps because they're either linked synergistically or they're opposing muscle groups. A chest exercise and a leg exercise, they're not functionally linked at all. But could you do a chest exercise and a leg exercise? Sure. The reason I like putting shoulders and legs together is because they're the oddball, right? Back fits well with chest or biceps. Chest fits well with back or triceps, right? Shoulders and legs, they're both oddballs. They get together. Right? You ever see one of those couples? It's like, what do you guys have in common? We're both oddballs, right? I have a buddy, Randy, like that. They actually, it's funny. Randy and his girlfriend, like they look like their brother and sister. She does roller derby, and he's a bike messenger. You know what I mean? What do they have in common? They're both weirdos. But it's awesome, right?
How about time?
Time, what do you mean about time?
Want to work out in 10 minutes, 15, 20, 25?
Let me get to time in just a second, which I think might be right now. Time's really not all that important, to tell you the truth. Actually, when we talk about cardiovascular, time is not important if it's intense, okay? And I'll circle back on that one for you. All right, does everyone know the difference between reps and sets? Okay, repetitions are 1, 2, 3, 4, how many times you do it, right? Sets are how many times you repeat the exercise. Make sense? So here's the thing. If we're talking about increasing muscle mass, you really want to be working in 8 to 10 or 10 to 12 repetitions. If you're doing 15 repetitions, if you're doing 20 repetitions, that's more for toning, and that's not going to help you gain muscle mass like an 8 to 10 rep range would. So use heavier weights in lower reps, okay? Never, ever, ever, in my opinion, exceed 3 sets, okay? What I mean by that is, okay, I did my bench press, and then I did my row, my chest exercise, my back exercise, set 1. Chest exercise, back exercise, set 2. Same chest exercise, we all get the concept, set 3. Never exceed 3 sets. Because if you're doing more than 3 sets, you're spending a lot of time in the gym, and chances are you could reduce the time in the gym by lifting heavier weights. And if you lifted heavier weights, it'd have a greater impact on your hormones and have a greater impact on your schedule. Right? Because what do we want? We want intense or long. You know what I mean?
So heavy enough to do 8 3 times.
What's that?
Heavy enough to do 8 reps 3 times around.
You got it. But I really, really want to come back to the fact that that there's a range there, Jackie, right? So the next thing we're going to talk about is you want to use the heaviest weights as possible. So what I recommend you do is that you hit failure within that 8 to 10 range, right? So if I'm doing a bench press, if I can get 12 repetitions with a particular weight, it's time for me to increase my weight. You know what I mean? But if you can't get to 8, Jackie, that weight's way too heavy for you and it's going to cause an injury, right? Yeah.
Question. A lot of times my trainer will do higher reps but lower weight. So what is...
Higher reps, lower weights is more for toning, right? Leaning. Yeah. How many repetitions are you doing?
Like he'll do 15 or 25, but it's a lower weight. Like it's more repetition all the time, but lower weight.
So you're in a toning, his goals are toning. You know what I mean? So it's the conversation you have with your trainer, or your trainer should have with you, or what are your goals? That's the first thing I'll talk to you guys if you have consults is, well, what are your goals? What's your objective? What are you trying to achieve? Are you looking at tone? Are you looking at muscle mass? Are you looking to avoid disease? Why are you doing this? Okay. Also, really important is you should really alternate your rep ranges minimum of every 6 weeks. All right. So everything I do, I'm doing 8 to 10 repetitions from now until the rest of my life. Wrong. Right. So what you're doing is you're doing 8 to 10, and then at some point you're bumping your repetitions up to 10 to 12. All right. If you're one of these people that are sitting here and go, man, the thing that I really don't want to do is I don't want to get hurt, and I'm really uncomfortable in the gym, and I'm just unsure of myself, that person should start with 10 to 12, right? And then work their way down to 8 to 10. 10 to 12, lighter weights, more reps, is going to put more stress on the ligaments and the tendons. And therefore, a lot of times when you have an injury, it's like the muscle gets stronger than the tendons can respond. All right, so backing your way into that, if you're deconditioned, is a really good idea. Okay? Yeah, so don't be afraid to lower your weights on the second or the third set. So just because you grab a pair of 20-pound dumbbells, right, and you're doing your set and you can't even get through it, doesn't mean you have to go back to that. Use lighter weights the next set.
How come some like big bodybuilder guys, you see them go more and more weight every time?
Because that's a superset. That's a superset. All right? And they're doing it wrong.
I mean, I don't want to be like them.
And they're bodybuilding. What's their objective? You know, muscle mass that's not functional. I can't scratch my back. It's awesome. I love these guys. It's like, yeesh. I'm like, can you help me move this fridge? Sure. You know what I mean? Versus I got the scrappy little guy that does landscaping all day. It's like, can you help me move this fridge? Yeah, sure. Let me just throw it on my shoulder. Right? Because there's a huge difference between functional muscle and gym puffy muscle. You know what I mean? The person that is strong is functionally strong because they're training their neurology and the muscle. The person that goes into the gym is really strong at doing bench presses or deadlifts. But if you have them do something functional, it's like, ugh. It's actually awesome, right? So when you go into the gym, like, you know, because I'm like normal kind of guy, you know, you go in the gym to kind of work out with one, and it's like, no, you know, so functional muscle is good. All right. So if you do hurt yourself, guys, 2-week recovery. Your body has 2 weeks. Remember how your body was like, you know, are you serious about growing this muscle? I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm going to wait 6 weeks, make sure you're serious about this, and then I'll start increasing my myofibrils, that type of thing, right? But your body's, you know, like, okay, you're not using it? 2 weeks? Gone, right? Because it's like, hey, man, I'm the one that's got to metabolize this stuff. I got to repair it. I got to upkeep it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. It's like my wife, when I put my cup down for like 2 minutes, it's like in the sink. Or in the dishwasher, right? Does anyone else have one of these things? You know, Vera? Like, I just put my water down for a second. Where is, it's in the dishwasher. You're not using it. I just put it down. You know what I mean? So that's your body. It gives you 2 weeks. You haven't been in the gym 2 weeks. I'm starting to break this down. Sorry, human. But, you know. Any questions on that? You can schedule a consult. I'm not going anywhere. Yes. No, it's cool. That's why we're here.
So I'm thinking through the splits, the
Yeah.
examples. There's no stomach in there.
Every day. That's a given. Core. Core is given every day. Yeah, every single day. So, absolutely. But thank you, Beth. You knew that answer.
I didn't know that answer. I thought you were going to tell me because you're working your core when you do all these other things.
No, every day.
Okay.
Run as fast as you can. All right, so I want to talk about cardiovascular exercise, right? So, you guys remember you guys were cavemen at some point in your life, right? So, understand that, your body's designed to run. It's supposed to run. You have this thing called cortisol, right? Is cortisol a good thing or a bad thing? Right? Well, yeah. So cortisol is a stress hormone, and it's not good or bad. But cortisol that's high when it should be low is bad. Cortisol that's low when it should be, it's got to be appropriate to what is happening in the body, right? So cortisol not necessarily a bad thing at all, right? So what you do want to do is you want to adopt something called interval training, okay? Does that make sense? When I say interval training, does everyone know what that means? Okay, it's altering your intensities from fast to slow, all right? And what you got to understand is when your body is where it is, cardiovascular training, you're using both fat and carbohydrate. Okay, in interval training, you're going from fast to slow. When you're going slow, your body's burning fat. When you're going fast, your body is burning carbohydrate. Make sense? And when you have to pivot biochemically between getting my energy from carbohydrate and getting my energy from fat, you need to use cortisol in order to pivot. Right? So here I am all stressed out because of life, and my cortisol levels are high, and they shouldn't be high because I want to go to bed when they need to be low, right? So that's how a good interval training will lower your cortisol. If you don't use it, it stays high, right? So you need a thing that will use your cortisol, and interval training is one of those things. Have you ever seen these charts on the treadmill? So back in the day when I was a trainer, this is what we'd do. We'd be like, okay, we're going to take 220, we're going to minus your age, okay, and that's your heart rate max. And then I'm going to take, what am I going to take? I'm going to take 65 to 85% of that heart rate max, and that's your optimal target heart rate. And that's crap. Yeah. So what we now know is that working within a specific heart rate is fine, but really where you're going to get the balance back to your hormone systems is really in heart rates that are higher than 85%, right? But here's the thing. You can't run the fastest you can run forever. You'll die. Your body actually will hit some called lactic acid threshold, and your body will literally be shut down. I've been there before. You go to the hospital, and they give you a bag, and you're like, you're stuck in a cramp. It's horrible. Don't ever do it. But here's the thing. We now know that if you do this traditional heart rate-based training, you're gonna increase your metabolism for maybe 6 hours. Versus if you do it in an interval, your metabolism can be increased for up to 48. Who wants their metabolism? Who wanted their metabolism increased? You want it for 48 or do you want it for 6, right? So you're into Peloton, right? But what Peloton is not just, I'm going to go at this cadence the whole time. It's you got to crank it up, and then they'll put you through a recovery, and then crank it up. And then it's that alternating intensities that's important. Guys, the higher your heart rate, the more calories you're going to burn, right? And there's this thing called EPOC, which basically says that the higher your intensity of exercise, the harder your body has to work to get your body to recovery status or pre-exercise status. To get your body back to recovery takes time. It takes energy, right? So that's why your metabolism is going to increase because of this thing called EPOC, okay? EPOC, right? Yeah, it looks like a graph that looks like this. For the higher the intensity of your workout, the longer your metabolism is going to be increased. Versus if you do a steady state or heart rate based program, 6 hours, 48 hours. Make sense? All right, so what are you going to do? We got different intensities here, right? So some of you are really good. Some of you are not so good at running, right? So here it is. For the person that hates to run, right? Hate running, right? Okay. With a broken toe, right? So Beth, you got a broken toe. So you're going to hobble slow for one. So, sorry, bad broken foot joke, right? So what you're going to do is you always want this interval to be 1 to 2, okay? Pardon me, 2 to 1, the way I have it written. 2 minutes slow, 1 minute fast, okay? Or, different proportion, 1 minute slow, 30 seconds fast, right? I don't have a watch. I don't have a stopwatch. Okay. For 2 telephone distances, I'm going to walk. From 1 telephone distance, I'm going to run as fast as I can. But when you alter your intensities, again, you're getting energy from different places, so your body's got to pivot. And to pivot, it needs cortisol. You need less cortisol, right?
So in your slow period, could you do the resistance training? Stop, doing your fast, and then...
No, you want to recover, Jackie. You want to let your body recover so that when you get back to that sprint portion, you can sprint hard. You know what I mean? Because that's something that it's going to keep your intensity higher than it should be, and eventually your body's going to go, you're trying to kill me. Okay, you know what? I got this thing called lactic acid. It's going to shut you down. I thought you could beat. So the body's smart, because you can't be at 85% intensity forever. You need those recovery times, and that's important. You know what I mean? And if you're having a really hard time with your sprints, get slow on your slow portion. You know what I mean? And then get fast as you can. You know what I mean? As you get more comfortable, you're gonna go as fast as you can, and then alternate to a little slower. You know what I mean? But the person that's starting is going super slow. Almost like if I go really slow, those 2 minutes won't expire. Oh no, it's the minute I gotta run again. You know what I mean?
So going up an incline doesn't count as fast.
So that's another way of doing it. So you could go 2 minutes at an incline, 1 minute flat. Pardon me, that'd be the other way. 2 minutes flat, 1 minute at an incline. But I don't recommend that you're at an incline, ever. Because for your lower back, when you're at an incline, you hyperextend your facet joints and it changes your running mechanics. Yeah, so I'd much rather you move faster. It's going to have a bigger impact than increasing resistance or incline. Does that make sense, guys? All right, so doing all right on time here. Who's been there? All right, so what I want to talk to you about is your insulin levels, right? So here's the thing. If you diet and you don't exercise, you're going to fail, right? Because when you diet and not exercise, you're going to lose muscle mass. And when you lose muscle mass, you lose the ability to burn calories, and also you lose the ability to produce high levels of growth hormone. Make sense? This has been looked at many, many times for many, many years, and they all find the same thing. If we look at dieting alone versus exercising alone, the person that diet alone versus exercise, they're going to lose equal amounts of weight, but the person that's just is exercising is going to lose more fat. They're going to gain muscle, which will increase their metabolic rate, which will protect them from further weight gain, and will also defend against insulin resistance. What happens to your weight when you get off your diet for a day? You gain weight. What happens if you get off your exercise routine? You got 2 weeks. What's a better window? I can screw up for 2 weeks, or I can screw up for a second, a meal. You know what I mean? And we've all been there, like, I'm so good. Oh, I gotta be bad, because being so good hurts. It physically hurts, and then you're bad, and then it's like, poof, where did that come from? I was down 20 pounds. It is like, actually, they did a study. You're light. Weigh yourself on Wednesday. You'll feel better. Yeah, Wednesday is your most consistent weight gain. Yeah. So if you're going to pick one or the other, Which one is it? But I'm going to contradict myself in the sense that, here, I'm trademarking this, by the way, so don't take it. It's mine. Most of the benefits gained in the gym are lost in the kitchen. You know what I mean? It's true, right? Here's the thing. Most of it, research after research article shows that when people engage in a workout routine, I deserve myself a little treat. I broke a sweat today. I deserve it. You don't deserve it, right? So it's true, right? We all do this when we start exercising. So don't burn 300 calories on the treadmill and then go home and consume 500. That's not good, right? So there's this great book called The Blue Zones. Has everyone ever heard of this book, The Blue Zones? Right? Trish, you must have heard me talk about the Blue Zones. You've been here for like 20 years, right? So the Blue Zone's the best question ever. It's a National Geographic funded study, and then the book came from it. But it was basically the best question ever. There are certain pockets around the globe where people live longer. And they basically asked the best question ever, which was, all right, well, what are these people that are living forever doing? Right? And one of the things that people, the cultures that live longer, they consume less calories. We're fatties, man. We eat more. We have more calories than any other country on the planet. You know what I mean? And in certain cultures, they practice something called hari hachibu, which is basically just the concept of you get up from the table when you're 80% full. Right? Different nerves carry messages at different speeds. Right? Some are really, really fast, and others, like in your stomach, are really, really slow. You ever have one of those moments where it's like you overshot your target for eating? It was like, I was good here, but then I went back for more, and then, oh my God, I am totally fat right now, right? And that's because your stomach was distended. You were full, but it just took time for that message to get to the brain to let you know. So getting up when you're 80% full is a beautiful idea, okay? So last one for your diet, right? So guys, is a calorie a calorie? Are all calories created equal? It's a good question, right? And I don't claim to have the answer to that. I know actually Framingham State College is in the middle of doing a study on this, right? But this is my opinion, which comes from a lot of research that says a calorie is not a calorie. And here's my argument for this, right? Well, first off, will reducing your calories help you lose weight? Yeah, because most of us have too many of them, right? But here's the thing. Different foods impact different hormones differently, okay? So something that is called a high glycemic carbohydrate, glycemic index or glycemic load is a measure of how much sugar is in a carbohydrate, okay? Foods that are refined and processed typically have higher glycemic indexes, right? So a high glycemic carbohydrate is going to have a tremendous impact on your insulin, right? Which is going to have a tremendous impact on cortisol, which is going to cause you to gain weight, right? But a low glycemic index or low glycemic carbohydrate is going to have a minimal, very appropriate response to your insulin levels, right? So this one's going to really put you into fat storage mode, and this one really won't at all. And if you have something like protein has zero impact on your insulin levels. So right now, high protein diets are all the rage, right? And there are certain organizations that you go in and it's like, we're going to fill you with protein, right? And you'll see a weight loss because people that consume lots of protein, say 30% of your diet from protein, you're going to consume almost 400 less calories a day, right? So there is some truth to a high protein diet. A high protein diet is good. Why is it good? Because it doesn't impact your insulin. What does insulin do? It turns you into fat storage mode. Does all that make sense? Right? So it's like, hey, the reason why we're all heavier than we should be is because of insulin. Why not eat a food that doesn't impact that at all? Protein, good. What does fat do to insulin? Not much. Right? So, shocker on that one? All right, so is anyone shocked that if you increase your resistance training, you increase your cardiovascular, and you watch a diet, you're going to lose fat? Right? You're all with me on this one. It's like, wow, Chris really brought it today. It's earth-shattering information, right? But I hope I made it more practical so you can actually do something about it when you leave here. here are two things that you'd never think about. Hey, guess what? Your sleep habits have a tremendous amount to do with your weight gain, right? So what we're talking about is people that, so raise your hand if you're getting 8 hours of sleep a night. Raise your hand if you're getting less than 8 hours of sleep a night. Got it. All right, so all of your hormones are wackadoodle because you're not getting enough sleep. So understand this. There is a primal relationship between light, time of the day, and hormone production, okay? Raise your hand if you have a hard time getting asleep, just so I know how to frame these next couple of slides. You all have a hard time staying asleep, don't you? Right? So are we all in agreement? It's staying asleep? All right, so let me go over getting to sleep real quick. You have these two hormones that regulate how you fall asleep. One is cortisol, and the other one is melatonin, right? The deal is with this. Your cortisol levels have to go down for your melatonin levels to go up. Your melatonin levels have to go up in order for you to go down to sleep, right? But many of us have things like diets and technology and emotional and social and physical stresses that keep our cortisol levels high, thereby prevents our melatonin from getting high, thereby preventing us from falling asleep. That's why stress prevents you from sleeping, right? But I'm assuming it's around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, because what time do you guys eat dinner? Between 6 and 7? What time's your little snacky? 9 or 10? Right? All right, so many of you will have a carbohydrate load around 9 or 10, right? 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, right? 4 to 6 hours is when that blood sugar goes like this and goes crash, right? And when it goes crash, your body wakes up and goes, I need a little snack because I deserve it. You know what I mean? Or it just gets up and you can drink some. In other words, that's what's waking you up.
But what if you're not eating sugar even in your life, and you're not eating past 7 o'clock?
What about dairy?
No.
Well, then we got to get back to the adrenal stuff, which is a conversation for you and I another time, right? So many times, as lucky ladies, right? So as you go through this trip around the sun, things change, right? So what happens is as the reproductive system starts to change, you produce less estrogen, right? You guys familiar with this process? We call it awesome, right? So as your body produces less estrogen, it still needs to be in balance with testosterone, right? So what happens is your body produces this thing called DHEA, produced by the adrenals, right? So now your adrenal glands, which are your stress glands, which are already stressed out, have a brand new job right around menopause. Hey, joys of being a woman, right? So then your cortisol levels are high when they should be low because your body's in this compensatory hormone game, right? It happens to women because if it happened to men, we'd be crying. Just be crying the whole time for like 10 years. Just, you know, it would be bad. It'd be bad. And the human species would not live on because it'd be bad. It'd just be bad, right? So that's what's happening in situations like that. But many of us are waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock because the insulin is spiking, okay? So here's the thing about your sleep. You got to value your sleep, right? Sleep is always the first thing to go, right? When you got deadlines and you got stress, I'm going to steal time from sleep, right? So what happens too is a lot of times there's a night owl, right? And then there's an early bird, right? And like sometimes your partner's sleeping habits totally mess with yours, right? So there's got to be a conversation of like, I'm trying to lose weight so I can look better naked. And your sleep habits are messing me up. So what I need you to do is this, and this, and that. You want me to look better naked? Me too. Okay, good. So we agree. This is what we're going to do for sleep, right? So I tell you, if your partner is messing with your sleep patterns, get a body pillow. Yeah. We call that the wall of Brookvale. I put that thing over here. And then as she falls asleep, I switch it over here. And as she stays asleep, it goes, and that's, and I wake up all spread open. Yeah, it's awesome. Body pillows are great. Defense. All right. Bedtime commitment. Commit to a time to go to bed, right? So here's the thing with bedtime. Jack, would you ever do something in the morning that would guarantee to turn your day to crap? Would you ever wake up and go, man, I'm gonna sabotage my day? Yeah. Right. Most of us probably wouldn't get up in the morning and go, how do I mess my day up? I got a couple ideas. Stick my finger in that socket. That'd be good. All right. So if you can get around this concept, this makes a huge difference. Bedtime is actually the beginning of your day. Right? So because sometimes going to bed is tough. It's like, oh man, the Facebook and I got my programs and what's gonna happen? I don't know. The same thing happened last time I watched this. You know what I mean? And what happens is we just don't get to bed. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, I really wanted to go to bed, but I didn't. But if you have this mindset of my bedtime is the first thing of the day, it totally changes your mindset, and you'll be surprised you'll commit to that bedtime. Wake time will work itself out, believe it or not. You know what I mean? So commit to that bedtime. Nighttime snacking, we kind of got there through a joke, but a lot of times people will have dairy high in lactose, which is a sugar. A lot of times people have chips or pretzels or these high glycemic carbohydrates, right? If you're gonna have anything before bed, have like some protein or a low glycemic carbohydrate, okay? Those are things. Technology, right? When was the last time you put your smartphone down and you go, man, that article on Facebook really is gonna help me burn fat, build muscle, recover, and actually I'm a better person for that. It just doesn't ever happen, right? So there's nothing on the news, there's nothing on Facebook, there's nothing in your technology that's gonna help you sleep better or help you burn fat. Right? So try to avoid that stuff, especially before bed, because the light coming off of the screen is going to keep that cortisol level high, right? And then interfere with your sleep patterns. Make sense? Right?
Yes. Question: what should be like the cutoff for when you work out? Because like I'm usually a night worker.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? So for me, like noon. All right. So it's different for everybody, but your body temperature is going to stay elevated for at least 6 hours after your workout, right? And it's hard to sleep when you're sweating. You know what I mean? So that's different for everybody. That's one of the major reasons I don't play ice hockey anymore, because you get off the ice and you're like, yeah, woohoo, right? And then you can't sleep, and then you're in bed by 4, and then you got patients that you just can't do it. So that's different for everybody. Same thing with meals. I do recommend you try not to eat, as much time as possible between your last meal and bedtime is a good thing, right? That's the major chink in my armor, because I don't get home till, on a good night, 7, but most time it's going to be like 8 tonight, 8:30, right? And eat dinner, and then I go to bed, right? So that's a major chink in my armor. So I got to be very, very careful about what I'm eating that night, right? And, yeah. Nightcaps, alcohol. Let's just talk about it, right? So alcohol is a sugar, right? And that is alcohol is good for passing out, but horrible for sleeping, right? So that's one of those things where it's like, oh, I got a nightcap. Get rid of it. You'll sleep better. Guarantee you. All right? Questions on this before I move on to our last topic? Let's talk about stress, all right? Stress is going to impact all of the hormones that we've talked about. It's going to increase your cortisol. It's going to increase your cholesterol. Everything. Right? Guys, I'm sure you've seen this slide pretty much every single time that I do a workshop. Do you guys get that when your body has a one-size-all-fits stress response, right? And that when your body experiences stress, it basically goes into life-saving mode called stress response or sympathetic dominance or fight or flight. And it turns on structures and processes that it needs for survival and turns off things that you don't, right? So we get that if we're running from a woolly mammoth, it's a good thing to have increased heart rate, blood pressure, and muscle tone because you got to run away. But if you're stressed out all day, every single day, right, it's not a good idea to have increased cholesterols and LDLs and HDLs and increased clotting factors and decreased digestion. I mean, all of those things are going to force you to gain body fat, right? So, I mean, here's the thing about stress. The body goes through this stress response irregardless of the source of stress, right? So if you're stressed because of something social or emotional, your body's going to stress response. If you're eating a poor diet with high glycemic carbohydrates, stress response. If you have a physical trauma, not just a macro trauma, but a micro trauma of sitting there with your cell phone, which is equivalent to putting a 50-pound dumbbell on your head, stress response. Do we get that our bodies are only supposed to be in stress response when we're running for our lives, but now we're in stress response all day, every day, right? You ever wonder why, like when you take an animal and take it out of the wild and you put it in a zoo, it gets sick, right? Because the animal's not eating, moving, thinking the way that it should in its normal environment. You know, to some degree, we're in a zoo too, right? So stress will absolutely increase your fat deposition. So real simple things about stress. Okay, so 3 real simple concepts. There's the concept of enough. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I make enough. I don't know if enough. You know what I mean? Like, it's never enough for many people, right? And I don't, we're always comparing ourselves to other people and other things, and we never have enough time or enough. It's enough. You know what I mean? And am I the only person that has this stress of enough? Come on, we all have the stress of enough, right? And you have enough. You have enough. Jack, I'm forgetting about our deep conversation here. You have everything that you need right now. Well, something of that zen, like, you know what I mean? So you guys have enough. You'd be surprised, trust me, when you have a situation that takes everything away from you, you realize you got enough. You got totally enough. Expectations. I expect this, I expect that. I just graduated college. I expect a $100,000 salary, and you know what I mean? Our expectations, they're horrible, right? So I've been taking care of people for 11 years, and I'm on the sidelines, and I get to watch your lives, and it's like the biggest gift you guys could ever give me. It's awesome. I love my job. Love coming to work every day, right? But tomorrow's not promised. I can't. There's been times where I've said, I'll see you on Wednesday. And he didn't. Because they were gone. You know what I mean? So, a lot of times it's like, oh man, I got all this, I got all that, I got all this stuff going on, right? You thought things were pretty bad, and then next week happened and it got a whole lot worse. You know what I mean? You're complaining about something at work, and then the next thing you know, you're like your buddy's friend was in a motorcycle accident. Those types of things. So your expectations, gratitude, being happy for what you got, man. If you're happy for what you got, whoo, universe will give you a whole lot more of that stuff. Funny. And then the last thing is your environment, right? So when we talk about weight loss, right? So you guys know what a Venn diagram is, right? Right? So you got this thing called your genetics, right? You got this thing called your environment. And of course you got your lifestyle choices, right? And in the middle where all these circles intersect is what you get. It's your results, right? Can you guys do anything about your genetics? Nope. Can you do stuff about your lifestyle choices? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we talked all hour about that. Your environment. Can you do stuff about your environment? To a lesser degree than your healthcare choices and your health, but yeah, you can do a lot about your environment. One of the major things that we think about and we forget to think about in our environment are the people that we surround ourselves with, right? Do you ever have one of those friends that, like, you need to love from a distance? You know what I mean? The person that puts you down to build themselves up, the person that always reminds you of, like, that negative thing, you know what I mean? Like, so much of what we experience has to do with, like, who we surround ourselves with. You know what I mean? So that was like one of the major things when we lost the office to the fire. My circle got cut down big time because I just couldn't have negative energy around me because I had a job to do, right? And man, it makes a huge difference. Once you get a little bit of distance between those soul suckers and yourself, whoo, life is better. So, there's some people in your circle that they just got to go. You don't have to tell them I hate you, but you got to just say I love you over there. You know what I mean? So who we hang out with and has a huge impact with our stress levels, and your stress levels do impact how you're depositing fat or not. All right. So here we go. So we live in New England, so let me clarify. Red means stop, green means go, orange means slow down. All right, so not speed up because that's how we do it here in New England, right? So right now, I want you to think of the 5 things that we talked about, right? One of those things is something that you go, that's easy, I'm doing it. I'm doing it already. I'm really good at that. And one of these things, I'm like, I need a little help with that. And then there's always one thing that it's like, I'm not touching that. That is hard. Don't want anything to do with that. I might actually have to like look inside my soul and deal with my stress. No, I'd much rather go to the gym, right? There's one thing that you're looking at that and that you're scared as heck to really engage in. You go, well, maybe I'll do 4 of the things, right? It's the thing that you're scared about the most is the thing you've got to do first. Because in life, if you're looking to make a change in your body, it's always the weakest link that limits your success. It's never your strength. It's never your strongest link that determines your distance. It's always the weakest link that determines it. You know what I mean? So right now, of those 5 things, there's one thing that just scares the hell out of you. That's what you got to do first. The thing that you thought was easy is what you got to do last, right? But by all means, before you hit that pavement, do something. You got to do something. This is going to be great. You're either going to walk out of here and go, that was nice information, or right? Or you're going to go, this is what I'm going to do, and when you do it, it makes a difference. All this is great information, but without action, it's nothing. So some of you need more information. This was just a teaser, and you need a little bit more detail. I'm here for you. Schedule those consult blocks. All right? All right, guys.